Welcome to the Insight Channel. I'm Jazz, a blind occupational therapist, and I have a question for you today. How many people do you know who can thread a needle easily? And out of them, how many can do it with their eyes closed? Well, I can, and you will be able to too after watching this video. Threading a needle can be a challenge, whether you're blind, sighted, or have vision anywhere in between. So today, I am going to show you some quick and easy adaptations to overcome the challenges for threading a needle and sewing a button without relying on your vision. Here are the tools I'm going to use. The typical ones that you would expect. I've got the button, the needle, the cork, scissors, and thread. But over here are some tools you might not expect. Some Scotch tape, small post-it notes, easy thread needles, and what they call a universal automatic needle threader. So let's get started. First, I'm going to start by showing you the quickest and easiest way to thread a needle if you can't see it very well. These are called easy thread needles. I've got one here sticking up out of this cork to stabilize it. An easy thread needle has a little teeny tiny slit in it that you pop the thread down into. And so I'm going to show you the easiest way to do this. Now here's the thread. This definitely, you have to rely on your sense of touch, and thread is very hard to feel. So what I do is I take the end of the thread and I tear off a little piece of post-it note and take the sticky part, squeeze it around the thread. So now that gives me a way to keep track of one end of the thread. Then I'm going to unroll this thread to where I want it. Then I'm going to take another piece of the post-it note and do the same thing before I cut the thread, just so I can keep track of both ends. So I got my scissors. Oops. There we go. Cut that. Now, I have got a piece of thread that I think is the right length. Perfect. I lined up both of my ends there. And so now, the way this needle works is I'm going to take I'm right-handed. I'm going to take my pointer finger and wrap the thread a couple times around it so that I can pull it tight. And so now I'm going to use my pointer finger and a thumb on my dominant hand, my pointer finger and a thumb on the left hand to pull it taut and pop the thread into the needle, just like that. All I did was put a little pressure, popped it in, so now I can pull the needle up and we are good to go. I'm going to show you how to tie it off. I want to make sure, all right, one end is a little bit longer than the other, so I'm going to pull it through so they're closer to each other. Now, with my non-dominant hand, I am pinching the thread to keep them together. And I'm going to stick my middle finger out a little bit, wrap the thread around my middle finger and pointer finger, then stick the needle through the hole to tie off the knot. And there we go, perfectly threaded needle. Easy thread needles are great, but they do require a delicate touch. So if you yank on your thread a lot, you might prefer to go ahead and use a regular needle. So I'm going to show you a device called the Blue Elite automatic needle threader. And so it has a little lever on the right hand side that you push down, and when you push that lever, it has a little piece of filament that's going to push the thread through a hole so you can grab it. Now before you do that, I like to take a piece of Scotch tape and wrap it around my pointer finger on my dominant hand, which is my right hand, just so in case I need a little help grabbing that thread, I've got it. All right, so I pre-cut a piece of thread to save time. I'm going to take my needle, this is a standard needle, and this little gizmo has, I like to call it a chimney. It looks like a little chimney sticking up. So you take the eye of the needle and put it down into the chimney. Then you take your piece of thread and put it over the chimney so that there's a piece on either side. Oops. And I missed it. Thread is so difficult to work with when you have a hard time seeing it. Okay. So here's the way I like to use this little device. So now I've got a piece of thread on either side of the chimney. I'm pinching the thread lightly with my thumb and pointer in my non-dominant hand. Then I take my middle finger of that hand and wrap it around the back of the device to stabilize it. And I'm pushing down with my pinky as well. So now with my right hand, my dominant hand, I'm going to push the lever down and see if the filament is going to push that thread through. Now that's why you only lightly hold it, because then you can feel that thread move if the filament catches it. If it doesn't catch it at first, you just kind of wiggle the needle, try it again. That time it seems to have pulled it through. Okay, so there we go. I did not need the Scotch tape. I was able to grab the thread. So now what I'm going to do is turn the little device around so I can try and get my fingers in there. So I've opened up the loop. Now I'm going to stabilize the device again with my left hand, and I'm pulling the bottom part of the loop, which is going to pull up one side of the thread. All right, and I'm going to keep pulling it, and it's okay that the little paper came off. Perfect, because now I have a perfectly threaded needle. So I'm going to pinch the needle and pull it straight up. I'm going to take my other hand and pinch the thread just to make sure the thread doesn't get pulled out. There we go. We have a perfectly threaded needle, and I am going to tie it off the same way that we did in the previous. Hey, if you like this video, be sure to click the thumbs up on the screen and share it with anyone who'd benefit from the information. So now we've got a perfectly threaded needle, and I've got one of my favorite new buttons, and this is a way around button. I think they're magical because they actually contain lots of good information for labeling your clothes. I'm going to show that in the next video. So the way to get started is to put your needle through the fabric so that is facing you. So then you can take your button, this is a 2-hole button, put it over the needle, and then rotate the button till the second hole is to the left, and you can feel it with your thumb on your non-dominant hand. So I pulled my needle through the hole on the right. I'm going to push it down through the hole on the left, pull that through. And you're going to want to repeat the process at least 3 times just to keep it stable. So I'm finding my hole on the right. There is something weird about, there we go, something weird about this ribbon. Okay, I'm sewing this button onto a ribbon today, you guys, just to make it easier to demonstrate. It's one of those grosgrain ribbons, so it's not super easy. Okay. All right, so I've pulled it through twice. I'm going to pull it through one more time if my needle will let me. There we go. And then down through the left. Okay, great. So now what you do is you flip it over, and we're going to want to tie it off. So you take your needle and you push it underneath the little bridge of thread that you've created from sewing the button, and you pull it across. And you're gonna pull it out and through. And then you wanna do that at least 2 times, just to make sure it's good and tight and on there. And then you can take your scissors, which I have over here to the side, and we're gonna cut it off. And we have a perfectly sewn button. So now you have insight into how this works. You can successfully thread a needle and sew a button with any degree of vision. All it takes is patience, good feeling in your fingertips, and the right tools. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click that thumbs up and subscribe so you'll be notified when we have new videos. The next one coming up is all about these magical way around buttons. Be sure to send me your comments, your questions, your ideas for future videos. I'd love to hear from you. My job is to help you by giving you the tips, tools, and techniques for living life to the fullest with vision loss. So no worries, you got this. See you next time.